My sister tried to kiss my fiancé at our engagement party after telling everyone I did not deserve someone as good as him. My sister tried to kiss my fiancé at our engagement party after spending the entire evening telling anyone who would listen that I did not deserve someone as good as him, and now my entire family is imploding over whether I am overreacting. I am 27, my fiancé is 29, his name is Gavin, we have been together for 5 years, engaged for 3 months, my sister is 31, I will call her Sloane, we grew up in a college town where half the population changes every semester and the other half has been there since the 70s. Our parents still live in the same split-level house with the slanted driveway and the kitchen that always smells faintly like whatever candle my mom is burning that week. Sloane and I were close when we were younger, or at least I thought we were. She was the one who taught me how to do winged eyeliner in the bathroom mirror, who let me tag along to the bowling alley when her friends would let her, who helped me pick out my outfit for my first real school dance. Somewhere along the way, though, that shifted. I do not know if there was a single moment or if it was a slow leak, but by the time I hit my 20s, being around her felt more like a performance than a relationship. She has always been the one people notice first, taller than me, sharper features, the kind of confidence that makes you assume she knows what she is talking about even when she does not. She works in sales for a medical supply distributor. She is good at it. She makes decent money. She has always dated a rotating cast of guys who are either too into her or not into her enough. None of them stick. She acts like that is a choice, but I have seen the way she scrolls through her phone late at night at family gatherings, jaw tight. When I started dating Gavin, she was fine at first, maybe even supportive. He is a paramedic, works long shifts, comes home exhausted. He is steady in a way that I did not know I needed until I had it. Sloane met him early on. We all went to a minor league baseball game together. She made jokes, bought a round of overpriced nachos, seemed to genuinely like him. I remember her pulling me aside in the bathroom line and saying he seemed solid, that I should hang on to this one. I felt proud, like I had passed some test I did not know I was taking. The shift happened gradually, little comments here and there. She would ask how Gavin was doing and then follow it up with something like, "It must be hard dating someone who works such weird hours," or "I bet he does not have a lot of energy for fun stuff after those shifts." At first I brushed it off. She was probably just making conversation, but then the comments got more pointed. She started asking if we ever fought about his schedule, if I felt like I was doing all the emotional labor, if I ever worried he was using work as an excuse to avoid things. When Gavin proposed, it was small and private, exactly what I wanted. He did it at the observation deck on the edge of the state park, just the two of us and a thermos of tea. The ring was simple, a thin band with a small stone, nothing flashy. It was perfect. I called my parents right after. They were thrilled. My mom cried. My dad made some joke about finally getting grandkids, which I ignored. I called Sloane next. She congratulated me, her voice bright, but there was something underneath it. Something I could not name. A few weeks later, my parents suggested we have an engagement party, nothing huge, just family and close friends. They offered to host it at their place. Gavin and I agreed. My mom went into full planning mode. She draped string lights across the back deck, set up folding tables in the yard, ordered too many sandwiches from the deli down the street. The weather cooperated. It was one of those late spring evenings where the air is warm but not sticky. Everything felt right. Sloane showed up early. She was wearing a dress I had never seen before, deep red, fitted, heels that made her even taller. She hugged me, told me I looked nice, then immediately went to find Gavin. I watched her corner him near the drink cooler, laughing at something he said, touching his arm. At the time I told myself I was being paranoid, that she was just being friendly. Everyone was in a good mood. I needed to stop looking for problems. As the party went on, I started noticing a pattern. Every time I was talking to someone, Sloane would insert herself. She would steer the conversation toward Gavin, how great he was, how lucky I was, but the way she said lucky always felt loaded, like it was less of a compliment and more of an accusation. My aunt pulled me aside at one point and said, in this careful voice, that Sloane seemed really focused on Gavin tonight. I laughed it off, said she was probably just excited for us. My aunt gave me this look like she wanted to say more but did not. Then I overheard her talking to one of my cousins near the edge of the deck. I had gone inside to grab more ice. When I came back out, I was behind them. They did not see me. Sloane was saying something about how she did not understand what Gavin saw in me, that he was so patient, so kind, so capable, and I was. She paused. I could see her gesturing with her drink, just kind of there. My cousin laughed nervously, said that was a weird thing to say. Sloane doubled down, said she was not trying to be mean, but seriously, someone like him could do so much better. I stood there holding a bag of ice, my hands going numb. I should have said something, should have walked up and asked what the hell she meant, but I did not. I went back inside, dumped the ice in the cooler, and avoided that side of the deck for the next hour. I told myself maybe I had misheard, maybe she was joking and it just landed wrong. I wanted it to be anything other than what it obviously was. Later, as people started to leave, Gavin went inside to help my dad carry some chairs down to the basement. I was by the back door talking to a friend from work. Sloane came up. She was tipsy, not falling over, but her words were just a little too loose. She looped her arm through mine and said we should do a sister photo. I agreed. We stood together near the string lights. My friend took a few shots on my phone. Sloane leaned in close, said quietly that she was happy for me, but also that she hoped I knew how to keep someone like Gavin interested, because guys like him do not stay with boring forever. I pulled away, asked her what that was supposed to mean. She smiled, said she was just giving me advice, that I should make sure I was putting in effort, that relationships take work. It sounded reasonable on the surface, but the way she said it felt like a threat. Before I could respond, Gavin came back outside. Sloane immediately lit up, walked over to him, told him he looked tired, asked if he wanted to sit down. He said he was fine. She insisted, steered him toward one of the chairs. I watched from across the deck, my stomach nodding. A little while later, I went to the kitchen to start cleaning up. My mom was washing dishes. I helped her dry. She asked if I was having fun. I lied and said yes. She paused, then said she had noticed Sloane was acting a little off tonight. I asked what she meant. She said just that she seemed overly focused on Gavin, that it was probably nothing, but it felt strange. I told her I had noticed too. She patted my arm, said Sloane was probably just adjusting to the idea of me getting married, that she would settle down. When I went back outside, most people had left. It was just a handful of us. Gavin was sitting on the steps leading down to the yard. Sloane was next to him, close, too close. I could see her leaning in, talking quietly. He was nodding politely. I walked over, asked if he was ready to head out. He said yeah, stood up. Sloane stood too. She looked at him, then at me, then back at him. She said she wanted to give him a proper congratulations. Before I could process what was happening, she stepped closer, put her hand on his chest, and tilted her face up like she was going to kiss him. Gavin stepped back fast, his hands up, asking what she was doing. She laughed, said she was just messing around, that he was so serious. I felt my whole body go rigid. I asked her if she was out of her mind. She rolled her eyes, said I was overreacting, that it was a joke. Gavin looked at me, then at her, told her that was not funny, that she needed to go inside. She looked shocked, like she could not believe he was siding with me. She said fine, whatever, and walked back toward the house. I stood there shaking. Gavin put his hand on my shoulder, asked if I was okay. I did not answer. I went straight to my car. He followed. We sat in the driveway for a minute, neither of us talking. Finally he said he was sorry, that he had no idea she was going to do that. I told him it was not his fault, but my voice came out wrong, sharp and brittle. We drove home in silence. The whole way I kept replaying the image of her leaning in, the way her hand had been on his chest, the casual cruelty of it. The next morning, I woke up to a string of messages from my mom. She said Sloane had left the party upset, that she was saying I had embarrassed her in front of everyone, that I had made a scene over nothing. I stared at those words, made a scene over nothing, like her trying to kiss my fiancé was some trivial misunderstanding. I did not respond. I did not know how to. Over the next few days, my phone blew up. My mom kept calling. My dad sent a text saying we should all sit down and talk. Sloane sent me a message saying I was being dramatic, that she had obviously been joking, that I was ruining the family dynamic over my own insecurity. I screenshotted everything, not because I had a plan, just because I needed proof that I was not imagining this. Gavin was furious in his quiet way. He wanted to call her, to tell her off. I told him not to, that it would just make things worse. He said it could not get worse. I was not sure he was right. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something, like one wrong move and the whole structure of my family would collapse. Part of me wondered if that would be such a bad thing. A week later, my mom called and said we needed to have a family meeting. I did not want to go, but Gavin said we should, that avoiding it would not make it disappear. So we drove back to my parents' house on a random weeknight. My dad was in the living room. My mom was in the kitchen stress baking something with too much cinnamon. Sloane was already there, sitting on the couch with her arms crossed. She looked at me when I walked in, her face unreadable. My mom started talking before I even sat down. She said we all needed to move past this, that family was more important than one awkward moment. I asked if she was seriously calling what happened an awkward moment. My dad jumped in, said I needed to calm down, that Sloane had already apologized. I said no, she had not. She had sent me a message blaming me. My mom said that was basically an apology, that I should accept it and let things go back to normal. I looked at Sloane, asked her directly if she understood why what she did was wrong. She stared at me, then said she guessed she was sorry if I felt hurt, but that she genuinely did not think it was a big deal. She said Gavin was clearly uncomfortable the whole night anyway, that maybe I should be asking myself why. Gavin stood up then, told her she had no idea what she was talking about. My mom told him to sit down, that this was between sisters. He ignored her, said Sloane had crossed a line, and that everyone acting like it was no big deal was insane. The room exploded after that. My dad started yelling about respect. My mom was crying. Sloan was saying we were ganging up on her. I just sat there, watching my family tear itself apart over the fact that I had dared to be upset about my sister trying to kiss my fiancé. After about 20 minutes of chaos, I stood up, told Gavin we were leaving. My mom begged me to stay, said we had not solved anything. I told her there was nothing to solve, that Sloan had done what she did and none of them cared. We left. I did not look back. On the way home, Gavin asked what I wanted to do. I said I did not know. He asked if I wanted to uninvite her from the wedding. I had not even thought that far ahead, but the second he said it, I knew the answer was yes. Update 3 weeks later. Things got messy before they got clearer, but at least now I know where everyone actually stands. After we left my parents' house that night, I spent a few days in this weird fog, going through the motions, working from home at my kitchen table with my laptop balanced on a stack of books because one of the legs is uneven, barely talking. Gavin gave me space but checked in, asked if I wanted him to cancel plans with his friend so he could stay home. I told him to go. I needed time to just sit with everything. My mom kept texting, long paragraphs about how family is complicated, how I needed to forgive Sloan because holding grudges only hurts yourself, how weddings are stressful and maybe we were all just on edge. I did not respond for a while, then finally sent back a single message saying that I was not holding a grudge. I just was not interested in pretending everything was fine when it was not. She replied within seconds, said I was being stubborn, that I got that from my dad's side of the family, like it was an insult. I talked to my best friend Audra, who I have known since we were both in middle school and got stuck doing a group project on ecosystems. She came over one afternoon, brought a container of brownies she had clearly made in a rush because half of them were burned on the edges. We sat on my back steps, which overlook a sad little strip of grass and a neighbor's chain-link fence. I laid out the whole thing. She listened, did not interrupt. When I finished, she said flatly that Sloan sounded unhinged and that my parents were enabling her, which was not news, but hearing someone else say it helped. Audra asked what I was going to do about the wedding. I told her I was leaning toward uninviting Sloan. She said good, then asked if I was ready for the fallout. I said no, but I did not see another option. She told me she would back me up however I needed, that if it came down to picking sides, she was on mine. It was such a simple statement, but it made me cry, which I had not done since the party. She handed me a napkin from her pocket, said I was allowed to be a mess about this. A few days later, my dad called, which was unusual. He does not do emotional conversations over the phone. He usually just forwards me articles about home maintenance or jokes he does not quite understand. He asked if we could meet up, just the two of us. I said sure. We agreed on a diner halfway between my apartment and their house, one of those places with sticky menus and a jukebox that has not worked in a decade. We sat across from each other in a cracked vinyl booth. He ordered decaf even though it was mid-afternoon. I got water. He started by saying he understood I was upset, that what Sloan did was inappropriate. I waited for the but. It came fast. He said but she was going through a rough time, that her last relationship had ended badly, that she was probably acting out because she felt left behind. I asked him if he was seriously justifying her trying to kiss Gavin. He said he was not justifying it, just explaining it. I told him those were the same thing dressed up differently. He leaned back, rubbed his face, said he just wanted his daughters to get along, that he was tired of being caught in the middle. I told him he was not in the middle, he was on her side, that he and Mom had made it clear from the start that they cared more about keeping the peace than holding Sloan accountable. He did not argue with that, which somehow made it worse. He just nodded slowly, said maybe I was right, that he did not know how to fix it. I told him I was not asking him to fix it. I was asking him to acknowledge that what she did was wrong. He said he did, but his voice was flat, like he was saying it because he thought he should, not because he meant it. We left the diner without resolving anything. I sat in my car afterward, hands on the steering wheel, trying to figure out if I had just burned a bridge or if the bridge had already been ash for a while and I was only now noticing. The wedding was still months away, but we had started sending out save the dates. I had not sent one to Sloan. My mom noticed. She called me, asked why Sloan had not gotten hers yet. I told her very calmly that Sloan was not invited. My mom went silent for a long moment, then said I could not do that it would destroy the family. I said the family was already pretty destroyed. She started crying, said I was being cruel, that I was punishing Sloan for one mistake. I reminded her that Sloan had not apologized, that she had doubled down, that she had spent the entire engagement party tearing me down to anyone who would listen. My mom said that was just how Sloan was, that I needed to be the bigger person. I told her I was done being the bigger person, that I had spent years shrinking myself to make room for Sloan's feelings, and I was not doing it anymore. She said if I uninvited Sloan, she and my dad might not come either. I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my voice steady, told her that was her choice. She hung up. Gavin came home an hour later, found me sitting on the floor of our bedroom, staring at the wall. He sat down next to me, did not ask what happened, just waited. I told him my mom had threatened not to come to the wedding. He swore under his breath, said that was manipulative. I said I knew, but it still hurt. He asked what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to elope and avoid all of this. He said we could, if that is what I really wanted, but that he did not think I should let them take this from me, that the wedding was supposed to be about us, not about managing my family's dysfunction. He was right. I knew he was right, but knowing something and feeling okay about it are not the same thing. A week later, I got a message from Sloane, the first direct contact since the family meeting. It was long, rambling. She said she had been thinking a lot, that maybe she had been out of line, that she did not want to lose me over this, but then the message took a turn. She said she still thought I was overreacting, that Gavin had been polite to her all night and she had misread his signals, that if anyone should be apologizing, it was him, for leading her on. I read that message 3 times, trying to figure out if I was hallucinating. She was seriously claiming that Gavin, my fiancé, who had been nothing but respectful, had somehow led her on. I screenshotted it, sent it to Audra with no context. She replied with a string of question marks. I told her to read it again. She called me immediately, said Sloane had officially lost the plot, that this was not just sibling rivalry or jealousy, this was something deeper and more twisted. I did not respond to Sloane's message. I blocked her number. I blocked her on every social media platform I could think of. Gavin asked if I was sure. I said yes, that I was not going to keep a line open for her to send me garbage. He said he supported that. My mom found out I had blocked Sloane. I do not know how. Maybe Sloane told her. Maybe she tried to tag me in something and it did not work. She called me furious, said I was being childish, that blocking family was not how adults handled conflict. I told her adults also do not try to kiss their sister's fiancé and then blame the fiancé for it. She went quiet, asked what I meant. I read her the message Sloane had sent. Word for word, she did not say anything for a long time, then she said. Sloane was probably just confused, that I should give her grace. I hung up. I did not yell. I did not cry. I just ended the call. Gavin asked if I was okay. I said I did not know, but I was not going to keep defending my decision to people who had already decided I was wrong. The invitations went out 2 weeks later. My parents were on the list. Sloane was not. I did not hear from my mom or dad after that. I do not know if they are planning to come. I have stopped checking my phone as much, stopped bracing for the next confrontation. It is not peace exactly, but it is quieter, and right now, quiet is enough. Final update 4 months later. The wedding happened, my parents did not come, and somehow I am okay. In the weeks leading up to it, I kept expecting them to reach out, to say they had changed their minds, that they would be there. I checked my messages more than I wanted to admit. The silence was its own kind of answer. 2 weeks before the date, my mom sent a short text saying they had decided not to attend, that it was too painful to watch me exclude Sloane, that they hoped I understood. I read it sitting on the couch with Gavin next to me. He asked if I wanted him to call them. I said no. That there was nothing left to say. I did not respond to the text. I did not send a long emotional reply. I just left it there, unread on their end, a tiny act of taking something back. Planning the wedding without them was strange. We had already scaled things down. It was going to be small, 40 people in the community hall attached to the old fire hall on the east side of town. The space smells like floor wax and has folding chairs stacked along one wall, but the rent was cheap and it had big windows that let in good light. We were not doing anything fancy, no plated dinner, no DJ, just a potluck reception and a playlist Gavin put together. Audra helped me rework the seating chart. We took out the family table, spread people around more evenly. She asked how I was feeling about my parents not coming. I told her I did not know yet, that I was still waiting for it to hit me. She said it might not, that sometimes the absence of something terrible just feels like air. I did not know if that was comforting or depressing. The day of the wedding, I woke up in my apartment alone. Gavin had stayed at his brother's place the night before because his brother insisted on at least one tradition. I made toast, sat at my kitchen table, looked at the dress hanging on the back of the door. It was simple, off-white, no train. I had bought it off a rack at a department store during a lunch break. It fit well enough. Audra showed up an hour later with a bag full of makeup and a breakfast sandwich she had picked up on the way. We sat on my bathroom floor because the lighting was better. She did my makeup while I ate, told me I was not allowed to cry until after photos. I told her I did not think I was going to cry. She said good, that I looked like someone who had made a decision and was sticking to it. I did not tell her that I had woken up at 3 in the morning wondering if I should call my parents one more time, that I had stared at my phone in the dark before putting it back down. The ceremony was at 2. We got to the hall early. Gavin's family was already there. His mom hugged me, told me I looked beautiful. His brother helped set up chairs. I stood near the window, watching people trickle in, friends from work, Gavin's coworkers, a couple of neighbors, Audra's parents who I had known since middle school. It was small, but it was full. no empty seats in the front row where my parents would have been. We had just left that row out entirely. The ceremony itself was short. We had asked a friend who got certified online to officiate. He kept it simple, talked about partnership, about showing up, about choosing each other. Gavin and I had written our own vows. I kept mine short, told him he made me feel like I did not have to apologize for taking up space. He told me I made him feel like coming home was not just a place but a person. We did not cry. We just stood there holding hands, smiling like idiots. Afterward, people moved to the other side of the hall where we had set up tables. The potluck was chaotic in the best way. Someone brought a massive tray of stuffed shells. Someone else brought 3 different kinds of salad. There was a shocking amount of dessert. Gavin's aunt had made a cake, 2 layers, plain white frosting. It was perfect. We cut it with a bread knife someone found in the hall's tiny kitchen. People took photos on their phones. There was no formal photographer, just moments, caught by whoever was closest. At one point, I stepped outside for air. The hall has a side door that opens onto a weedy lot where they store old equipment. I stood there in my dress, breathing. Audra came out a minute later, handed me a bottle of water, asked if I was spiraling. I told her no, that I was just taking a second. She said my parents not being there was their loss, that this day had been exactly what it needed to be. I told her I kept waiting to feel sad, but I mostly just felt relieved. She said that was allowed. We went back inside, danced badly to the playlist. Gavin spun me around until I got dizzy. His brother gave a toast that was mostly jokes. Someone turned the music up too loud and we all just went with it. I looked around the room at one point, at all these people who had shown up, who had brought food, who had driven across town on a random afternoon, and I realized that this, right here, was my family. Not the people who shared my blood and then used it as leverage, but the people who chose to be there, who did not make me earn it. Later that night, back at the apartment, Gavin and I sat on the couch still in our wedding clothes, shoes off, ties loosened. He asked if I regretted not trying harder to fix things with my parents. I told him no, that I had tried for years, that at some point you have to stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. He said that was very poetic for someone who had just eaten 7 cupcakes. I shoved his shoulder. He laughed. We sat there in the quiet, the kind of quiet that does not need to be filled. A few days later, I got a text from my mom. She said she had heard the wedding was nice, that she hoped I was happy. It was not an apology. It was not an olive branch. It was just words. I thought about responding, about trying one more time to explain, but I did not. I just left it there. Sloane sent a message too, from a number I did not recognize. I only realized it was her because of the way she writes. She said she had heard I got married, that she hoped Gavin knew what he was getting into. I blocked the number without reading the rest. Gavin saw me do it, asked if I was okay. I said yeah, that I was done giving her real estate in my head. Life kept going. We went back to work. I sat at my uneven kitchen table and logged into video calls. Gavin went back to his shifts, coming home tired and smelling like the antiseptic they use in the ambulance. We talked about moving eventually, maybe finding a place with a better kitchen, maybe getting a plant that we would inevitably kill. Normal things, boring things, the kind of things that do not make good stories but make a good life. I do not know if my parents will ever come around. I do not know if Sloane will stop trying to insert herself. I do not know if there will be some future holiday where we all end up in the same room and have to navigate the wreckage. But I do know that I am not going to be the one who bends first. I am not going to apologize for protecting my peace, for choosing the person who chose me back, for building a life that does not include people who only show up when it is convenient for them. A month after the wedding, Gavin and I were cleaning out the hall closet, the one that has become a graveyard for things we do not know what to do with. We found the box of cards people had brought to the wedding. We sat on the floor and read through them, messages from friends, from his family, from people we barely knew but who had shown up anyway. There was one from Audra that just said, "You did it, proud of you," and one from Gavin's mom that said, "Welcome to the family, for real this time." I stacked them all back in the box, put it on the shelf. We finished cleaning, threw out 3 trash bags of things we had been holding on to for no reason, and when we were done, the closet had space, the apartment felt lighter, and I realized that sometimes the best thing you can do is make room for what actually matters and let the rest go.